Good morning. Good morning. Let's all stand again. And we're going to sing a little hymn. And it's called Power of the Blood. Join me and sing with me.
There is power, power, wonder-working power in the blood of the Lamb. There is power, power, wonder-working power in the precious blood of the Lamb.
Good morning. Got a couple of windows here. You sleeping on the other side? We're gonna have to work on it over here. Good morning. Good evening. Some of you are still snoring. I'm not sure. Melvin, I heard you up here. He tends to do that from time to time, I've noticed. Good to see you this morning. Happy that you guys are here. I saw some of you last night at our couples Bible study. We had that last night from 7 to 9. Marriage, engaged, thinking about it. Any of those things, you are welcome to join us. It's a great study. We have last week and then 5 more weeks of this study. And then at the end, our married couples will go on a retreat Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And so we're looking forward to that. Yesterday, it was such a great time. We laughed so hard. I know lots of you had a great time last night sharing, and just the laughter that took place was so good for our hearts. And I saw couples, the husband nudging the wife and the wife nudging the husband like, hey, did you hear that? Did you see what he said? I saw a lot of that yesterday. It was good. It was good. But I'm excited. I think it was, yesterday, Friday, my wife and I drove to Chicago. We left about 1 or so, got there, worked 6 to 10, and then we got up the next morning, worked 8 to 1, and then we got finished with that, came straight back here, went into the White House, over into the office, and opened the door, and there was something pretty amazing there. It was a brown something in the shape of a cross. Man, did you guys notice this morning? I literally could not believe my eyes. I mean, I was dumbfounded. It is seriously, someone said, hey, this is for your church. And we found out that Michael Hood made it. Tammy, his wife, was here, but her husband made this for our church, and I literally just couldn't believe it. It was beautiful. He took some of his scrap wood, put it together, and made it just something really amazing. If you look closely, it's rough. And I said, tell me a little bit about how you made it, why you made it. And he said, you remember you talked about how Jesus was beaten and how he was scourged for us and how he was put on the cross. And I got to thinking about that, and I thought, this cross doesn't need to be smooth, it needs to be rough, so that we can remember what Jesus went through for us. And so he took some time, and he just did a fantastic job on it. It has wheels, it'll move very easily. So we have something now to have here. It's heavy, it's not pine, I'm telling you right now, it's maple, it's very heavy wood, very well made. It'll last us a very long time, and I am super excited about it. We're going to get going this morning. The title of our message is Be Still. Be Still. There's lots of ways we could sign that, and I see some of you like, oh, I know, I've seen this verse before. But this is a verse that, it's not the normal verse you hear with it. Normally you hear the verse, be still and know that I am God, but we're going to look at these verses this morning. Today in the world that we live in a world of busy schedules. We have our children's schedules, and we have each of our schedules, and then parents have their schedules, and moms and dads and children, and then you've got singles, you guys have schedules, you have lots of things going on, and we're always trying to work out that schedule, aren't we? Especially sometimes as a family and a parent, when our kids have stuff going on, we're trying to almost split ourselves in half just to make it to all the events, and you go here and cover that, and I'll cover this, and we live in a busy life, a busy day where we have lots of things going on, lots of responsibilities, and so much on our minds. But the Bible tells us to be still, to take some time. In the midst of our craziness, and in the midst of so many things going on and people traveling, we need to just take time to be still. I want you to open your Bibles this morning to Exodus. We're going to look there, but hold on to that verse. But I want you to look, first of all, I'm going to just emphasize this morning Exodus 14:14. That will be our key verse. But I want to tell you just a little bit about the story before I get started. This time, the nation of Israel, they were in bondage in Egypt. Pharaoh was in charge, and he was constantly hurling orders for them to go and to do and to make more bricks and to produce more things. And Now he's at the point where he's telling them, oh, you think that you have lots of time? Well, now you can go find your own supplies. And, Moses is at this time going to Pharaoh saying, let my people go. They've been here too long, and it's time for them to go. And so Pharaoh says, that's fine. And so as Moses goes to Pharaoh, and Pharaoh is there, and Moses says, hey, I just want to let you know that God says to let my people go. And Pharaoh says, no. And so what happens as a result of that is we know we've heard the plagues that took place, the locusts, the flies, the blood and water, all those things that took place, the death of the firstborn, and all of these really terrible things took place in Egypt because of the fact that God said, let his people go. And if you remember when the blood had to be put on the doorpost so that the death angel would pass by, and if not, then the firstborn son was to die. So all these things are taking place. And so now Pharaoh's like, okay, go. And so quickly all the children of Israel, they get their stuff and they're out. They're heading out. And they're quickly approaching the Red Sea. And as Moses is guiding them, they're all there, and the people come upon the Red Sea, and they're looking out, and they see around them, there's mountains all around, and then here they have the Red Sea. But they look back and they realize that Pharaoh's army is now quickly approaching. If you can see the dust back there in the background, the cloud of dust, they know that they're being chased. So they look back and they think, if we go back, Pharaoh's army, they're going to kill us. But we can't go forward because we're going to die in the Red Sea. Pharaoh let the people go. That was free labor for him. That was a hard deal. So as he realized what just took place, he says, oh, we can't do this. So 300 chariots were assigned to go and then chase down the children of Israel. The king himself is on that last chariot, coming behind them. You see the storm, the cloud of dust that's coming. And the children of Israel, all of a sudden, they're in a tough spot. Mountains on each side, the Red Sea before them, the soldiers of Pharaoh behind them. Let me show you just this quick map. Right in here in this area is Egypt. And right here is the Red Sea. So, how in the world are the children of Israel going to get across? They have no boats, they have no canoes, they have no way to get across the Red Sea. So if you'll go back just to the first picture for me. Okay, so here they are. In a position where they think they're going to die. So now they start complaining, Moses, why? Why did you do this to us? You brought us out here to die. It'd be better for us to go back to Egypt and be slaves. Are you crazy? Why did you do this? And all these things are going on. And Moses says, be still. God will provide a way. Ephesians chapter 14, verse 13 and 14. I want you to look at just those two verses. Exodus, I'm sorry. I said Ephesians. I meant Exodus. They both start with E's. I know you know what I'm talking about, Susan. She kind of reads my mind sometimes. Exodus chapter 14, verses 13 and 14. Just these two verses this morning. And Moses said to the people, do not be afraid. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will accomplish for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall see again no more forever. Forever. Verse 14, and the Lord will fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. Let's pray. Lord, we thank you so much just for the concept, Lord, that you remind us that you will fight for us. Lord, just like a big brother steps in for a little brother to protect him, God, it's a picture for us to realize that you were there and that you will step in and that you will take care of it. As we see the children of Israel, and then we see Egypt and they're in hot pursuit of these children of Israel, God, we see that Moses looks to you. And he says, be still. Lord, help us today to learn something, to learn from this concept of being still, and what does it mean, and how do we apply it. God, thank you so much for today. We love you. In Jesus' name, amen. Moses realized, as he looks back and he sees the cloud of dust coming and these 300 chariots, you know the thought had to cross his mind, they're going to kill us. What are we going to do? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, you can only imagine what was going through his head at this time. And here he is, the one leading these people out. I mean, what is he going to tell them? Swim? There's no chance of life through that. But Moses stood. Even in the middle of the chaos that was probably going on in his own head, he stood still and he said, the Egyptians who you see today, you'll see no more. This is the last time you'll see them. You know, as individuals and even as families, there's times where we face a very uncertain future. There's times in our lives when we look around and all we see is this cloud of dust, or when we feel that someone is in hot pursuit. Or we feel that there is so much chaos going on in our life that we are just being overwhelmed and overcome. But this verse reminds us that the Lord will fight for us if we will hold our peace. And it doesn't matter what kind of fight. I mean, you know, there's sometimes that God just comes in and says, done. Pulls out his holy weapon and whaps the fire out of us and says, be done. You know, I mean, that's how it works sometimes. God is so much bigger than our problems. Just like I said a minute ago, that big brother steps in sometimes. You know, and we're so thankful when that happens, aren't we? We're so thankful when God steps in. We're so thankful that no matter whether it's financial problems or whether it's problems within our family, that even when that problem is looking us straight in the face, and we feel stuck, and we feel that there is no way out, that God says, look to me. And all we have to do is say, God, help me. Help me get through this. Unfortunately, the world tells you to trust yourself. Look to yourself. You can do it. Be strong. All these things. We are so bombarded by what the world's philosophy is today. But yet God's word says that we are to look to him. And that no matter what we're facing, our response should be to immediately look up. Not to look to ourselves, not to look to the world, but to look up. That requires a great deal of faith, doesn't it? Because sometimes that's not our natural reaction. My wife and I, sometimes when we're traveling, I knew it was this past recent trip we went to see Amy's family in Tennessee, but we were having some really serious problems with our van. And as we were starting to accelerate, the van would shake really bad, and it was very scary. And it was starting to happen every couple of minutes. And we were like, okay, I mean, we honestly, both of us felt a little panicked. We really weren't sure what to do. And so Amy breaks out, and Lord, we are trusting you. We need you to get us there. Could you just help us? You know, and my first response was that I had already put my toolbox in the back of the van. I mean, that's just the reality of it. But my wife, as soon as she felt it, I mean, you know, she's looking at me and I'm looking at her, and she's like, Lord, could you just help us? We're depending on you. And I thought, how in the world? But, you know, my first response was to bring my own toolbox, right? I mean, I had something to fix. Apparently, if we went down, I was going to have to do something on the side of the road. You know, I didn't know. I didn't have any mechanic friends on the way, but you know, just to be still. It's not easy to do that. In the midst of chaos, in the midst of what we don't understand, you know, the kids are like, hey, like over halfway there, they're like, hey, Dad, what's going on? And I'm like, oh, we're going to be fine. I didn't want the kids stressed out and frustrated. You know, we were already stressed enough and had some sweat rolling down and a little wetness under the old armpits. But the whole thing is that we were nervous. And I remember that we did have to pull over one time, and it was only the bumper. I mean, we heard something crazy, and it was really only the bumper. We pulled over, and we were like, what in the world is going on? It wasn't even the real problem. I'm looking around, you know, trying to look like I knew what I was doing. But, I mean, it was just the bumper. We've lost part of those bumpers. And if you get too close to something, that it will really, like, flap really loud. And so really it was okay, it was just the bumper, we were behind the 18-wheeler, but you know, every little thing that happened, it was just very nerve-wracking. And we still had a mountain to cross, and we were so thankful just to get where we were going and not break down on the side of the road. But the point is that even in the midst of those things, and when we face really stressful times, you know, we didn't know what it was. Could it be our transmission? I mean, we've gone through that before. In another van, we lost the transmission driving to Ohio from Tennessee up the mountains, and we going right up the mountain, and all of a sudden the RPMs are going, and the van is no longer moving forward. I mean, the RPMs are going crazy, and I thought, what in the world? And so all of a sudden we're going backwards, no longer forwards. We have to pull over, and he says, what in the world is going on? And she said, are we in neutral? And he said, nope, Dan drives. Fabulous. So we pull over on it, and now we have to like go backwards. And that was a long story, but the point is that those are times when it's scary, and it's hard to trust the Lord. Because automatically we try to figure out what to do, you know, but what is our response? Is our response to look to God first?